You ever do something for someone you love, thinking it's the right thing, only to have it thrown back in your face? That's exactly what happened to me, and it's a story I can't stop thinking about. My name is Emily, and the moment I walked out of that recovery party, I felt something I never expected: betrayal. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. It all started a few months ago, when my sister called me in tears, practically begging for help. Her daughter, my beautiful little niece, Ava, had been diagnosed with a rare condition that required immediate surgery. The doctors were clear: without this operation, Ava's health could take a serious turn. I could hear the panic in my sister's voice, and I didn't hesitate for a second. I promised her, "Don't worry, I've got this." And when I said that, I meant every word. I spent hours researching hospitals, doctors, and surgical options. I even flew across state lines to meet specialists who could give Ava the best possible care. Finally, I agreed to cover the surgery myself. The total came to $16,000. That's a huge amount, but when it comes to someone you love, money becomes irrelevant. I remember standing in the hospital lobby, watching Ava sleep peacefully after surgery, thinking that was the moment everything would start to get better. My heart swelled with relief and pride. I had helped save her life. After the surgery, the doctors assured me that Ava's recovery would be smooth if we followed all the post-op instructions. I made it my mission to be there every single day, making sure she took her medicine on time, helping her with small exercises, and keeping her spirits up. Seeing her smile again after so much pain felt like a reward in itself. I didn't care about anything else, as long as she was safe and happy. Then my sister mentioned something that made me smile. She wanted to throw a recovery party for Ava. A celebration, she said, for everyone who helped and supported her. I thought it was a sweet idea. I pictured balloons, laughter, cake, and Ava surrounded by family who cared. And yes, I thought about the look on Ava's face when she realized her Aunt Emily had gone above and beyond for her. It was supposed to be a happy day, a moment of family togetherness after such a stressful time. I went above and beyond for that party too. I helped pick out decorations, gifts, and even arranged for a personalized get-well-soon cake. I wanted it to be perfect, not just for Ava, but for the memory of that day. And as the day of the party approached, I found myself excited, imagining the smiles, the laughter, and the warm gratitude for my sister and everyone else. I even prepared a little speech, something heartfelt to express how proud I was of Ava and how much I loved her. But the morning of the party, my phone rang. It was my sister. I thought she'd call to say she was excited or that everything was ready. Instead, she said, "Emily, we need to talk about the party." My heart skipped a beat. There was something in her tone that made my stomach churn. "You're not coming," she said bluntly. My mind froze. "What do you mean I'm not coming?" I asked, thinking maybe she was joking. But her voice stayed firm. "Aunt Emily, I appreciate what you've done, but Ava's party is going to be small, very private, and we think it's better if you don't attend. She needs positions at the party, and we don't want complications." I couldn't process it. I felt my chest tighten, my hands shake. I had just spent $16,000, put in hours of worry, love, and care, and now I was being told I wasn't even allowed at the party? The very party that was supposed to celebrate Ava's recovery, my recovery efforts, and the family's happiness? My heart felt like it had shattered into 1,000 pieces. I tried to reason with her. "What do you mean, positions? I don't understand. I helped save her life." My voice cracked. But she only repeated herself, carefully, as if she were delivering bad news to a child. "It's just better this way, Emily. You'll understand." I hung up, staring at my phone in disbelief. How could someone I loved, someone whose daughter I had fought for day and night, turn around and treat me like this? I felt anger, confusion, and betrayal all at once. But beneath all that, there was a spark, a quiet, simmering thought that I wasn't going to let this slide. That was the moment it hit me. I needed to think carefully, plan carefully, and make sure the lesson my sister and her family were about to learn would be unforgettable. But I couldn't let my emotions take over, because revenge, I realized, is only as powerful as your strategy. I spent that night thinking, pacing, and replaying every single detail in my head. I remembered the looks on Ava's face after surgery, the doctors who had praised my involvement, the stress I had endured. And suddenly, it wasn't just anger, it was clarity. I was going to get my revenge, and it was going to be precise, undeniable, and unforgettable. Little did I know, the path ahead would challenge me in ways I never imagined. I had to tread carefully because once revenge starts, there's no turning back. And the first step had to be perfect. The next morning, I woke up with one thing on my mind. How could I turn this betrayal into a lesson they would never forget? I knew I couldn't just storm into that party or yell at my sister. It had to be smarter, cleaner, and most importantly, public. Everyone needed to see that you don't treat someone who's done everything for you like they're invisible. I started small. I retraced every dollar I had spent, every phone call, every hospital visit, every sleepless night. I realized that while they were planning their exclusive little party, I had the power to remind them exactly how much I had invested in Ava's recovery. And it wasn't just money, it was time, energy, and heart. I wasn't going to let all of that vanish into thin air. First, I needed information. I started asking around discreetly, trying to figure out who was invited to the party and what their plan was. Surprisingly, my sister had posted some of the guest list online in a closed family chat. I saw names of people I barely knew, neighbors, distant cousins, even her coworkers, but my name was nowhere. That's when the anger surged again, hotter this time. I had saved her child's life, and now I was erased from the story? I decided that if they wanted to play this little game, I would play it better. I spent hours thinking of ways to make my presence felt without physically attending. I knew Ava's party would be full of photos, videos, and social media posts, so my plan had to hit there. I started drafting messages, gifts, and ways to make it undeniable that I was the one who had made Ava's recovery possible. But I also had to be careful. My sister was manipulative. She knew me well enough to predict my moves if I acted impulsively. That meant subtlety and strategy were key. I began by talking to a few people on the guest list, casually bringing up Ava's recovery and the stress leading up to the surgery. I planted small seeds, letting them know without seeming bitter that I had been there every step of the way. It was like setting dominoes. They wouldn't even realize the pattern until it was too late. Next, I focused on the gift. I knew that a get-well gift could either go unnoticed or be a game changer. I wanted something that screamed effort, dedication, and love, something no one could ignore. I found a rare keepsake for Ava, personalized with her name and date of surgery, something unique that represented the battle she had just fought. But I didn't just send it anonymously. I made sure it arrived with a note addressed to everyone at the party, explaining that I had been the one supporting Ava all this time. I also used social media carefully. I posted vague, heartfelt messages about family, gratitude, and resilience, posts that hinted at the sacrifices I had made without revealing too much. The reactions were immediate. Some of my sister's friends started asking questions. "Emily, were you there the whole time?" one message read. Another said, "Wow, that's dedication." I smiled, knowing that the whispers were starting, exactly as I had hoped. Meanwhile, my sister had no idea I was orchestrating this from behind the scenes. She was busy setting up the party, decorating, making a playlist, and feeling proud of her private celebration. But the cracks were already forming. People who had been in contact with me were subtly spreading the story. Emily had been at the hospital every single day. Emily had spent thousands. Emily had done things no one else had thought to do. Each message, each casual remark, built the tension, without me saying a single word directly to her. Then came the psychological part. I knew I needed to get under her skin before the climax. I started dropping little hints in conversation, always casually, always friendly. "Ava is doing so well, isn't she? I'm just glad I could be there for her." Or, "It's amazing how family can pull together during tough times if everyone wants to, of course." The tone was light, but the meaning hit hard. Every person who heard it felt the injustice, and soon, word would reach my sister. By this point, I had mapped out the entire path. I knew exactly how I wanted the reveal to happen. It wasn't just about confronting my sister. It was about showing everyone at that party exactly who had made Ava's recovery possible. And the best part? It would be done with precision, making her look foolish, ungrateful, and petty, all while I stayed composed, calm, and undeniably right. I went to bed that night with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Revenge, I realized, isn't just about anger. It's about timing, patience, and knowing the perfect moment to strike. I had the plan, I had the tools, and I had the moral high ground. The next day would be the start of something unforgettable, something that would leave my sister questioning every choice she had made, and everyone else seeing the truth crystal clear. Little did I know, the events that would unfold at Ava's recovery party would surpass even my wildest expectations. I had prepared for this moment for weeks, but nothing could have prepared me for the intensity of what happened next. Every smile, every laugh, every whisper that day would be a piece of my revenge puzzle, carefully falling into place. The morning of Ava's recovery party felt different than any other day. I woke up with a strange mix of excitement and nerves. Every detail of the plan I had spent weeks crafting was running through my mind. Today, the world would see the truth. Today, my sister would realize that betrayal has consequences, and that no amount of exclusion could erase what I had done. I arrived at the party location early, though. Technically, I wasn't supposed to attend. That was the genius of my plan. I didn't need to step inside to make an impact. I had arranged for the gift I had picked, the personalized keepsake, to be placed front and center on the main table, along with a note addressed to everyone attending. The note wasn't accusatory. It was simply heartfelt, detailing my contributions, the sleepless nights at the hospital, and the $16,000 I had spent ensuring Ava's surgery went perfectly. When the first guests arrived, I stayed at a distance, casually observing. I noticed my sister, oblivious to the subtle storm brewing around her. She was smiling, chatting, laughing with her friends, thinking everything was going perfectly. But little did she know, people were already noticing the display I had set up. A few early arrivals paused at the table, picking up the note and reading it aloud quietly. "Wait, Emily paid for the surgery?" one of her friends whispered. "Yes, she did everything herself," another replied. "I didn't even know she was there for every step." "That's incredible." I could feel the tension building from across the room. Whispers began circulating, growing louder as more guests arrived. People were comparing what they knew about the party and Ava's recovery with what they were now learning from my note. My sister, still in the middle of greeting friends, started to notice subtle changes in their expressions. Confusion, disbelief, even a little guilt, they all registered on her face. By the time Ava entered the room, smiling and dressed in a cute little dress, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Guests were talking among themselves, pointing subtly at the table and casting sidelong glances. Ava, innocent and cheerful, had no idea what was happening, but the energy in the room was unmistakable. Everyone was noticing something she hadn't been told. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Someone came up to my sister directly. "Wait, you didn't tell anyone Emily was here the whole time?" they asked, genuinely surprised. My sister froze for just a second, then tried to recover with a nervous laugh. "Oh, well, we just wanted a small, private celebration." But the damage was done. The whispers had become a chorus. Guests were clearly shocked by the truth. My sister's face turned pale as she realized she couldn't control the narrative anymore. Her little secret, that she had intentionally excluded me from Ava's party, was unraveling in front of everyone. It was at that moment that I decided to make the next move. I hadn't been at the party physically, but I had arranged for a live video message to play on the screen in the main room. The video showed me at the hospital, holding Ava's hand, talking to doctors, and celebrating small victories during her recovery. It wasn't boastful, it was simply factual. Everyone could see the truth. I had been there every step of the way, saving the day while my sister planned a party I wasn't invited to. When the video started, the room fell silent. People gasped, murmured, and pointed. My sister tried to explain, tried to laugh it off, but every excuse sounded weak in the face of what the video showed. I could see the realization spreading across her face like wildfire. She had underestimated me, underestimated the guests, underestimated how much they would value honesty and effort. And then came Ava's moment. She toddled up to the table, picking up the personalized keepsake. "Emily made this for me?" she asked innocently, looking around for me. The room went quiet. My sister opened her mouth, but no words came. Ava looked confused, holding the gift tightly. The weight of the situation hit my sister fully. Her own child had unknowingly revealed the truth about my role in her recovery, and everyone was witnessing it. I stayed back, calm and composed, letting the scene unfold naturally. There was no shouting, no confrontation, just undeniable facts. That, I realized, is the most powerful kind of revenge, one where logic and truth do the work, leaving the guilty exposed without lifting a finger in anger. Guests started congratulating me, sending messages, and even calling me afterward to say how impressed they were. The whispers turned into stories that spread beyond the party, making my sister the topic of conversation in ways she hadn't anticipated. She had tried to manipulate the situation, but the universe, and a little careful planning on my part, had other ideas. By the end of the party, my sister looked drained, embarrassed, and silent. Ava, oblivious to the adult drama, simply hugged her keepsake, smiling. I knew my revenge had worked, not just because of my sister's reaction, but because the truth was undeniable, public, and permanent. Everyone who mattered had seen it. And though I didn't speak a single word to my sister that day, the message had been sent loud and clear. Betray someone who's gone above and beyond for you, and the consequences will find you, even in the smallest, most subtle ways. The party had already shifted dramatically, but the climax hadn't fully arrived yet. I stayed back, observing as my plan unfolded with surgical precision. The whispers, the gasps, the stunned expressions, they were all part of the crescendo I had envisioned. But I knew the ultimate moment had to be unforgettable, something that would leave a permanent mark in everyone's memory. As Ava played near the gift table, still holding the personalized keepsake, one of the guests, my sister's close friend, stood up and asked, "Can someone explain this? Emily spent $16,000 on surgery and was there every day, and she wasn't invited here." Her voice carried across the room, crystal clear. The room went silent, every eye turning to my sister. That's when it happened. My sister, usually confident and poised, stumbled. She tried to laugh nervously. "Well, we just wanted a small, private," but no one was listening anymore. Everyone was looking at her with a mixture of disbelief and judgment. Her carefully crafted image of a grateful family was crumbling right in front of her. I had one more card to play. Remember the small group of family members I had spoken to in advance? I subtly motioned for them to step forward. One by one, they shared stories of my involvement. The long nights at the hospital, the careful attention to Ava's recovery, the emotional support I had given both my niece and my sister. They spoke with admiration, not malice, emphasizing how extraordinary it was that I had taken responsibility when no one else could, or would. I watched my sister's face change in real time. First, confusion. Then frustration. Then a flicker of panic. She couldn't interrupt these accounts. Every word was a testament to my dedication and sacrifice. Every story painted her in a corner, making her look small, ungrateful, and selfish. And she knew it. Then came the final blow, the part one had saved for last. I had arranged for Ava's doctor to record a short, heartfelt message congratulating Ava and recognizing the support Emily had given during the surgery and recovery. When the video played on the big screen, showing clips of me comforting Ava, checking on her vitals, and even consulting with doctors about her treatment plan, the room fell completely silent. Not one person moved, not one whisper. The truth hit like a hammer. My sister's hands trembled slightly. I could see the recognition in her eyes, the realization that she had tried to rewrite the narrative, only to be completely exposed. She had underestimated me, underestimated my ability to plan, and underestimated the power of truth and public acknowledgement. "Ava," innocent and unaware of the drama, ran up to me as if I had been there all along. I wasn't physically there, but my presence was felt through the stories, the gift, and the video. The juxtaposition was perfect. The party intended to celebrate her recovery had instead highlighted my dedication, leaving my sister in a position of embarrassment. The whispers turned into open conversations among the guests. "I can't believe she wasn't invited," one said. "After everything she did?" Another added, "This is unbelievable." Emily went above and beyond. Every comment was a dagger, subtly piercing the ego and pride my sister had tried to protect.
I didn't need to speak.
The narrative spoke for itself. My actions, my planning, and my moral high ground had done the work. My sister's attempts to exclude me had backfired spectacularly. She looked around, realizing that she couldn't control the situation, that her attempts at secrecy and manipulation were now public knowledge. At that moment, I felt a mix of vindication and relief. Revenge isn't always about anger or confrontation. It's about exposing truth in a way that cannot be ignored. And today, everyone had witnessed the truth. Everyone had seen who had been truly selfless, who had sacrificed time, money, and energy for someone they loved. Everyone knew my role. Even Ava, oblivious to the underlying tension, held the personalized keepsake and smiled. "Thank you, Emily," she said innocently, as if she knew exactly what had happened. The room's attention turned to her, and my sister's embarrassment reached its peak. She realized, in front of friends, family, and neighbors, that her exclusion had been both unnecessary and cruel. By the end of the party, my sister was quiet, withdrawn, and noticeably shaken. No amount of polite conversation could restore her image or undo what had been revealed. Meanwhile, I had achieved the ultimate revenge, not through confrontation, shouting, or anger, but through strategy, subtlety, and undeniable truth. Walking away from that party, I felt an overwhelming sense of justice. I had saved Ava's life, given her the support she needed, and now I had taught my sister a lesson about gratitude, respect, and honesty. The experience had been emotionally exhausting, but the outcome was worth every sleepless night and every dollar I had spent. As I left, I glanced back at the house one last time. My sister was inside, trying to regain composure, while Ava laughed and played with friends. The truth had been revealed, and everyone who mattered had seen it. Revenge, I realized, is most satisfying when it's complete, public, and leaves no room for denial. And that day, I had done exactly that. The day after Ava's recovery party, the aftermath was still buzzing through our extended family and social circles. Social media posts, texts, and casual phone calls had spread the story further than I expected. People were congratulating me, expressing admiration, and, quietly, some were whispering about my sister's ungrateful behavior. It was strange to feel vindicated, yet relieved, knowing that the truth had finally come to light without me needing to confront her directly. I spent the morning reflecting on everything that had happened. The betrayal I had felt, being uninvited from Ava's party, had burned like fire in my chest. But through careful planning, patience, and strategy, that fire had transformed into clarity. I realized revenge wasn't about hatred or bitterness. It was about balance, justice, and showing consequences without stooping to cruelty. My sister had learned, painfully, that her actions had consequences. When I called her later that day, her tone was cautious. She didn't apologize outright. Not yet, but there was a vulnerability I hadn't heard before. "Emily, I didn't realize how much you did for Ava," she admitted quietly, as if she were speaking to herself. There was no anger in her voice, just the heavy weight of shame and recognition. For the first time, I saw that my revenge had done more than embarrass her. It had prompted self-reflection. I chose to respond calmly. "I didn't do it for recognition," I said. "I did it for Ava." But yes, it hurt to be uninvited from the party, especially after everything I went through. "I just hope you understand that gratitude matters, not just for me, but for Ava too." My words were firm yet gentle, letting her know that the lesson had been received, but without gloating or anger. Over the next few weeks, the family dynamics began to shift subtly. My sister became more cautious about how she treated me and, by extension, everyone else in the family. There were no dramatic apologies, no awkward confrontations, just a quiet, unmistakable change in behavior. She had learned, perhaps for the first time, that her decisions had ripple effects beyond what she intended. Ava, of course, remained blissfully unaware of the drama. She was happy, healthy, and thriving, and that was the ultimate reward. Watching her play, laugh, and recover fully reminded me why I had done everything I did in the first place. My revenge had served justice, but my motivation had always been love and care for my niece. Seeing Ava happy was the true victory. Interestingly, the extended family began to reach out differently as well. People who had been distant or neutral started acknowledging my efforts more openly. Compliments, thank you messages, and even invitations to events arrived in a way they hadn't before. It wasn't about showing off, it was about recognition for the dedication I had poured into someone I loved. The ripple effect of truth and effort had reached further than I had imagined. There were moments when I thought back to the party, the gasps, the whispers, the video, the heartfelt acknowledgments, and I couldn't help but smile. The revenge had been clean, undeniable, and effective. It wasn't about causing pain. It was about revealing truth and making sure that my efforts weren't dismissed. That clarity brought a sense of closure I hadn't expected. My sister eventually approached me privately, not to argue, not to complain, but to acknowledge quietly what had happened. "Emily, I misjudged everything," she said softly. "I see now how much you did for Ava, and I'm sorry for excluding you. I hope we can move forward." It wasn't a dramatic confession, but it was enough. Enough to know that the lesson had been learned, and enough to restore some semblance of balance. From that point forward, the family dynamic shifted. I was included in family decisions, invitations, and events in ways that had been taken for granted before. My relationship with Ava grew even stronger. She remained unaware of the tension, but our bond deepened because I had been there when it mattered most. And my sister, while she still had her flaws, began showing a level of respect and gratitude that had been missing before. In the end, the experience taught me something profound. Revenge doesn't have to be cruel or vindictive to be effective. Sometimes it's the subtle, calculated moves, the truth, the planning, and letting others witness it that carry the most weight. I had done everything I could for Ava, and in the process, I had also safeguarded my dignity and self-respect. Looking back, I realized that moment of betrayal, the uninvited recovery party, was actually a catalyst for change. It forced me to think strategically, act decisively, and, ultimately, assert the truth in a way that no one could ignore. And in doing so, I not only preserved my integrity, but also ensured that my niece's recovery and well-being remained the center of attention, just as it should have been. As I close this chapter of my life, I feel a sense of pride, not for the revenge itself, but for the way it was executed. For turning a moment of hurt and exclusion into a story of justice, recognition, and clarity. For proving that actions speak louder than words, and that those who betray or underestimate others will eventually face the consequences of their choices. And above all, for ensuring that Ava, my sweet niece, received the love, care, and support she deserved, and that the people around her witnessed the true meaning of family, dedication, and accountability. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed Emily's story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another dramatic story like this. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think.